thank you very much once more for joining us. Once more, my name is Abdurrahman Jogo. I'm going to moderate this discussion, and with me here is Chijioke Dozie, who is the CEO and co-founder of Paylater. It's really good to meet you. Thank you for joining us. Quickly just tell us, what's it like working as a CEO of Paylater, a fast-moving company in like a highly regulated space in Nigeria? What's it like?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, and it's great to see so many people at 10:30 or 11 a.m. in the morning. I think doing fintech in a regulated environment is very challenging, because you always have to, we operate in an environment where fintech regulation is not tightly defined. So it's a tight walk between innovation and making sure you stay within the remit of the law. So there are lots of things we had done, and there wasn't any sort of regulation for it. So for instance, when we started digital lending, it's how can you lend money to people in Kano or you're in Lagos? What KYC is allowed. So I mean, we're regulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria, so we comply with all the laws. And I think you have to be very creative, because you have to make sure that you're doing what CBN thinks it's allowed, but at the same time, you are always serving the customer and making it very convenient for the customer.
So can you quickly share a little bit about your professional journey to this role?
Okay, so I started off as a private equity professional, so I was investing in companies in Africa. I started out in New York. I think if you watch the World Cup in 1998 in any sub-Saharan African country, it was one of our portfolio companies, TV Africa, that subsequently went bankrupt. So did that and then I moved to the IFC, the World Bank, private sector arm of the World Bank, and I got my MBA. And I started a company with my brother and co-founder Ngozi in 2008. And we did a lot of things. We invested in some companies in Kenya, in Rwanda, in Nigeria. We started OneFi, and we decided around 2013 to actually focus on OneFi and just sort of forget all the other companies. So that's pretty it.
So let's talk a bit about Paylater. Where does Paylater sit within the larger consumer lending and investment space in Nigeria? Are there any stats that you're able to share that will allow us to have a really good visualization of where Paylater sits within that large space?
Look, I think it's very hard. Everyone always says they're the biggest lender, but I think that Paylater was probably the first digital lender via smartphone app. In 2016, we started off as a web portal, and you had to sign on with Facebook. Then we created the app. So we've been around for 2 years, and I think the best way of sort of telling you the journey is when we had OneFi used to be like rent money. You had agents. You'd go out, you sell loans, etc. We would only do, let's say, 9,000 loans every year, and ₦1 billion in loans. With Paylater, and this is up to 2015. When we switched to Paylater, we now get 7,000 applications a day. We disperse over ₦1 billion a month. So we've gone from 1 billion a year to 1 billion a month. We've done this year so far about over 400,000 loans. So when you look at, it's hard to judge exactly, but when you look at commercial banks, if you look at what they classify as retail lending, certainly tier 2 and tier 3 banks will do about 15 billion naira a year, if that, in lending. And yet with Paylater, we're going to do about 15 billion this year, all automated, no human intervention. The only human intervention is in our customer success teams. But I mean, apart from when you download the app, when you apply, when you get an offer, when you get your loans dispersed, it is fully automated. And myself, Henry, anyone in the team, we have no no say in how much you get. So I mean, for people who are complaining about not getting loans, I mean, there's been a period of time over a year when I used to demonstrate Paylater to investors and I used to get rejected. You know, and in fact, if you look at my app right now, I applied for 7,000 naira loan and I got rejected. You know, so I mean, it's, and I can't just go back to the office and say, guys, you know, I need to be approved. It's you know, it's what it is, yeah.
That makes sense. So currently in Nigeria, what are some of like the most important trends shaping the lending and investment space in Nigeria? Like, what are you most excited about, and what has you worried?
So what excites me the most about what we've been able to achieve is, I think when, you know, when young people or even, you know, anyone in the 25 to 45 space, if they want a loan, they don't automatically think a bank is my first choice. They actually think a fintech lender. So we've changed that mindset whereby, you know, you think, oh, I'm going to go to my bank to get a loan, because we all know they won't lend you money. So you're always thinking, pay later, rent money. So we've changed that dynamic. So I think that's very powerful. I think that's something maybe some banks don't realize, is that when it comes to loans now, Nigerians have choice, and it's not the banks. I think that there are certain other players out there that are also trying to change that mindset in terms of savings. And I think that's where, you know, the likes of Piggy Bank, Cowrywise, a few other, even us, Payvest, you know, we are hopefully changing that mindset. So it's, I think people have alternatives. That's you know, one thing I'm really excited about. I think what worries me the most is, you know, there's so many players out there, and you know, people want money, and I think sometimes our customers and, you know, people aren't discerning in terms of the quality of institution you're borrowing from, because not everyone is equal. So for instance, you know, one of the things we have done is, you know, at Paylater we believe that, you know, every customer's credit history is theirs. So if you borrow from us and you pay well, we believe it is only fair that we report that positive news to the credit bureau, so that if another lender or your bank looks at your credit history, they will see that you borrowed from Paylater, you've paid well, you're a good customer. And you know, I firmly believe that if, you know, if you've paid off a loan from any lender, your bank should certainly give you a loan. Now, the problem we have is that some fintech lenders don't report good information. They report only bad information. You know, so one of the things we've done is anyone who applies for a loan now gets a free credit report from Paylater. And the feedback we're getting from customers, you know, we're getting emails from customers complaining that, you know, I took a loan from so and so fintech lender, I paid off well, how come I have no credit report? And I think they're robbing customers of their history. So I think that's what worries me is, you know, this sort of like fly by night. A lot of fintech lenders are not regulated, or they have some funny regulatory body they're using. And it worries me that they're going to paint everyone with the same brush, because when we started Paylater, you know, for the first 3-4 months, you look at our Facebook page, scam, you know, they want my BVN, scam, etc. And then now you look at it now, our customers actually defend us. We don't even, you know, Henry doesn't go on anymore. I mean, it used to be Henry's job every day when somebody said scam, he would write, you know, it's not a scam, blah, 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 blah. But now he doesn't have to do it because our customers do it for us. And I just worry that 1 or 2 bad eggs are going to come in, do something bad, and everyone paints us with the same brush. So I think for us, one of the things we're focusing on is now customer education, so that customers actually know there's a difference between lenders.
So basically, like, credit reporting should be more open source. Like like all fintechs should kind of like contribute to that one big pool where they're able to like report that these are the good lenders, these are the bad lenders.
Yeah, I mean, no credit. I mean, there are 3 credit bureaus, okay. And to be fair, there are a few lenders that check and also report data. I'm just saying everyone should report both good and bad history.
All right. So today, like, what are some of like the most interesting projects that Paylater is working on right now?
So I think one of the things we've done, I'm conscious that I've been talking about lending, but if you look at what we're doing at Paylater, we're branching out into other things. We're doing bill payments. We have Payvest, which is a savings or investment product, and I think the goal for us is to not just be a lender. We want to be we want to be a platform for financial services to actually cater to customers. So I think what you're going to see in the next year is a lot of experimentation, because we don't know. I don't think anyone really knows what people want and what people need, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be experimenting to see what works, what doesn't work. How can we make our services more custom made for our users. So lending is our bread and butter, but we still have a lot of customers that actually use our bill payment for transactions. And one of the things we're working on is the user experience. So if you actually use our bill payment platform, people think, yeah, QuickTeller has one, just so many people have one. But there's some nuances we have. So for instance, we're obsessed with, how many clicks do you need to get to your actual transaction? So for instance, if you go to a bank's app, I won't mention anyone in particular, but if I want to transfer money, it'd be, okay, what bank account? What bank is it? What number is it? What account number? With Paylater, it's put the bank account number, and we sort out which is the bank. So it's those little subtle things that we're doing to improve the experience. And then of course we have recurring payments. So there's going to be a lot more experimentation in the next year, because there's no point in doing, let's say, spending 3-4 months trying to perfect a brilliant product and then no one wants it, because it's a waste of time.
So talking about experimentation, a few months ago, Paylater launched Payvest. And just curious, Payvest is a platform that allows consumers to invest, by the way. So how does Paylater decide on new projects to work on? So I know you're experimenting, but what are the cues you look out for to decide that this is what we want to work on now? And also, will Paylater keep offering new services that we typically associate with banks?
Thanks. So in terms of how do we think about products? We have a very active customer base. So we have, our newsletter that Henry sends every week has, we have over hundreds of thousands of people on our mailing list, and quite an active base. We send user surveys, frequently. Every new customer gets a survey a couple of days afterwards to measure how the experience was for them. So we're constantly dialoguing with our customers. So if any of you is a Paylater user, you would notice that before we launched bill payments, there was a massive survey we sent about bill payments, about what bills do you pay, which ones was it gambling, was it your church payments, was it airtime. How frequently do you pay them? What's the average? So we did it was quite a big survey where we had over 4,000 responses. And one thing that excites me about the Nigerian consumer is that, she's very willing to share, to give detailed responses. So we were able to, design our bill payments platform based on what our users said. And again, we'll still iterate. So bill payments and Payvest, for instance, this is not where it's going to end. We have some new features we're going to bring. It was just, ship out quickly, see how the market responds, and then we'll iterate. In terms of, are we going to offer what banks, services other banks are doing? No, we're actually going to do a lot more. And I think we're more than a bank, and that's what we want to. We want to be sort of a partner in our our users' lives. So, we'll be looking at things like health insurance and insurance. We'll be looking at things like at e-commerce in the future, and in that we'll not do everything ourselves. We will be looking to partner with, startups, established companies to basically provide different services to our customers.
So you get a loan in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This is like a big promise and something that Paylater that says. So like, how does your team like manage to like deliver on this big promise?
So it's when we say, well, Henry's T-shirt is wrong, it's actually under a minute now for most of our customers. 95%, okay, fine. 95% of our customers get it under a minute, and we actually track this on a daily basis. Look, I think we're a 24/7 organization, and I think we've done, getting there has been very difficult. We've integrated into NIBS that allows us to do. Well, let me back up. I think being regulated has helped us. So it's a pain being regulated, but it's useful, and I think by being regulated, we've been able to access relationships with banks and the likes of NIBS, and they feel comfortable that CBN has regulates us. We're audited by a Big Four auditor, and that's given us access to certain tools and services that banks also have access to. So we can do instant payments for one. But and we're also working with partners like Paystack that's also available 24/7, and I think that's how we've been able to do this. And also we're vigilant because it's a 24/7 operation. So you on Sunday you're home and then you look at Twitter and it's blowing up because 300 people can't pay or can't access. I mean, this is something that we all sort of like jump into. And even when we talk to our vendors, I think one of the things interesting about Paylater has been, because it's 24/7 and it's fully automated, some of our vendors tell us, guys, we're going to do maintenance on a Friday afternoon and we'll be down till Monday. And we're like, it's impossible. You can't, that's like 4,000 loans gone on the week, over the weekend. And luckily, because of our volumes have increased, they understand the importance, and so some of them will now do maintenance on Sunday night at like 11 to 1 a.m. into Monday. So I mean, that's one of the things we've been very good at.
So in terms of like classification, like categorization, how do you think of Paylater? Do you think of Paylater as like an engineering company, for instance, and how does your classification of the company like help to like shape how the company moves forward?
So Ngozi and I, my co-founder and I, are not tech. We're finance. We're finance guys. His background, he's an investment banker. I was an investor. I think at the end of the day, it's a finance company that's tech-enabled. So we have an engineering team, but I wouldn't even say finance. I think we're focused on the user. And I think people get really hung up on, is it tech, is it fintech, is it this? I mean, as I said, we started in 2012. So what everyone sees now is Paylater. Paylater is 2 years old, but OneFi, which is the company, has been around since 2012. And it was a very, quote unquote, boring company in terms of every day we go out, agents go to your office, ask you for a loan, ask for 6-month bank statements, 12 checks, like physical identification. We had 40 bikers at one point going to everyone's house, doing a photo verification of your house, uploading it on GPS tracker, and that's how we started. And then it was a very painful migration to Paylater. So I really don't like this sort of like tech or whatever. Just we're a services business, and technology plays a huge role, but it's not the main role. The main role is users, because when I look at, I personally think that Paylater has the UI is very nice, it's great. I have seen in other countries digital lending apps that are uglier than ours, but they're doing 10 times the amount of volumes. So at the end of the day, if you get caught up in, you have this great technology, you have this great UI, but customers don't respond to it, you've wasted your time. So that's really services.
I'm talking about OneFi, and where does like Paylater sit within the larger OneFi organization?
So OneFi is the short name for our legal name of CBN, which is One Finance and Investments Limited. So OneFi is the company, Paylater is the product that we go out with. So Paylater is the company, but OneFi is our legal name.
Like many companies, like Paystack, Paylater has like international expansion plans. So what are like the key metrics that inform your decision to move into a particular country over the other? Like what do you look out for when you say I want to expand my business into other countries?
Sure. So we look at a few things. How active are the banks in the retail market? How much unbanked and underbanked are there in the country? Is it sizable? Is there high smartphone penetration? Because that's our main product. And is it something we can service? So for instance, we're in Ghana. We launched in Ghana last year. I'm going to launch again fully for the end of the year. And Ghana is great because it's similar English speaking. 30% mobile money penetration, so payments are actually are quite good. In fact, when we went into Ghana, it was actually easier than our experience in Nigeria. I hate to say this, but in Nigeria we have customers that would look at we have a huge body of work, of knowledge in terms of how to use Paylater. People ask questions like, I want to do this, how do I do it? Or I have a BlackBerry, why doesn't work on my phone? With Ghana, people just, downloaded the app, applied, got a loan, and paid back. We didn't have a single person in Ghana when we launched for 3 months. We had one customer service agent in Ghana, and we were able to run Ghana in conjunction with our partners remotely. And I mean, that's something, that's a consideration for expansion. So we're going to expand to other countries. So we're going to go into French West Africa next year. So we're looking at either Cote d'Ivoire or Senegal. And luckily we have some in-house French speakers. But high smartphone penetration. We think that the banking sector in Cote d'Ivoire is not really focused on retail. So we think it's a good market for us to go into.
So at some point, referrals contributed over 30% to your acquisition efforts. Now, why did referrals work so much for you at Paylater, and what lessons can other businesses learn from what you did to make it work for you so well?
Yeah, so I think when referrals happen, it was actually unexpected in the sense that we thought that lending is a very private thing. So if I borrow money, I don't really want to tell the world. So what I would do is I'd maybe share with a few people on my contact list. What ended up happening was people started posting referrals on Twitter. It's like, I got a loan from Paylater, use this. And so people started coming to Paylater via referrals. And then we tweaked it to make sure that we were encouraging the right behavior. So you only get paid if the person you referred to took a loan and paid us back. And then we used to have something where you could actually remind your referees, like, make sure you pay back. And I think it's easy. Referrals work when people want the product. So, people want loans. They have problems to solve. So it's easy. And so it's easy to sell onto someone. So I think that's why it worked, and it's something we're constantly going to improve the referral process as well.
Do you think this is something that can work for any business, irrespective of what industry they're in, like referrals in general?
No. So I really think the product has to be compelling. Otherwise, look, you see companies that are constantly in this loop where they're giving customers bonuses or money to entice them to transact on their platform. I mean, that is not sustainable. Even free is not sustainable. At the end of the day, if it's worth something to you, you would be glad to pay for it. So I think only certain products that are compelling, that have product market fit, will be easy to sell on for referrals.
Okay. So minus referrals, how does Paylater go about acquiring new customers?
digital marketing, Facebook and Google. I mean, that really is it. We did do some billboards at one point, and also we advertised on the BRT, exactly. And that was also important because, you know, we were sort of operating in a period of MMM, if you remember that scam. And, you know, I think there's this perception that you can scam anyone online, but if it's on a billboard, if it's on a BRT, if it's in a newspaper, it has to be legitimate, because how can everyone see a scam and just think it's okay? So we realized that, you know, the thing about billboards and all these offline marketing, it's really hard to track how effective it is. Whereas Facebook and Google, I can tell you how it's performance marketing. I can tell you how many downloads, you know, what was the result. But with billboards, I don't know. Our billboard in Abuja, I don't know how many loans it generated for us. But what it did was make us feel like, okay, this is a legitimate company because I'm seeing Paylater on a BRT bus. So that was really useful for us. And then of course we do promotions. We had a Paylater jingle, and we gave a free phone to anyone who took a video and did a dance, the Paylater dance. So I mean, and we use Instagram. So lots of things.
Yeah. So it sounds like your acquisition efforts, a lot of them, it's heavy on digital, right?
Yeah.
So you have said that attribution is hard for offline, but generally, not just the billboards, the jingles, every other thing that you've done that has been offline marketed. Do you have a sense of how it has helped, apart from helping to show that your business is legitimate? Do you have a sense of how offline has helped, offline marketing?
I don't have an exact sense. I mean, maybe Henry should answer that question, because, you know, he does a lot of the marketing and did a lot of the offline stuff. You know, look, we used to do offline marketing in our old business when it was manual. I think, you know, I think it's really hard to actually, and that's why we don't do a lot of it, because at the end of the day, it's, you know, I can't track how well offline marketing works. So if I want to spend, you know, 20, 30 million naira on marketing, and you tell me that, you know, 25 million goes to offline marketing, you know, how has that been effective in getting users, getting, you know, successful loans? So it's something we still struggle with.
So you handle hundreds of thousands of loans, right, per month. How do you So I imagine that requires that you have a really disciplined support system, right? So how do you go about scaling your support team to handle a lot of this volume that you currently process?
Sure. I mean, so we spend a lot of in-house training. We just actually increased our customer success team by another 20 people. I think the sort of DNA of the company has been processed. So when we started in 2012, one of the things Ngozi and I said was, everyone in the company should be able to should be able to assess one individual, and we should all come to the same answer in terms of what loan we should give her. And also, no one, so I have as much power as the most junior underwriter. So there's no exceptional approval. I have never been able to, override an underwriter. And if I override an underwriter for one loan, it has to be done for every single person. So that's been in our DEA, because we knew that to make the company scalable, there has to be some simple rules. So that's what's worked throughout. So it's not like there's no, a senior person comes and has certain signing rights, etc. No, it's got what's good for the most junior person is good for the most senior person, and that's how we've been able to scale.
So moving from offline, which was how you started, to purely online right now, working with Paystack, for instance, how has Paystack helped your transition, and what's it been generally working with a fintech like Paystack?
Yeah. No, I think the likes of Paystack came at the right time. I remember, I think Shola came to our office, and Henry and I were there, and we were telling him how we absolutely needed Paystack, and we were saying that Paystack should also focus on companies like us, because with the likes of Paystack, and the processing, we're able to collect money from people around the country. Our old business, I needed to collect checks from a customer before we actually dispersed a loan. And we didn't want to have 7, 8 offices. We wanted to just have one office. So by working with the Paystack, we're able to collect money from customers anywhere in the world, anywhere in Nigeria, and they can apply at any time, and the collections is 24/7. So I think that's why it was critical. So I think things like the likes of Paystack and also the introduction of the bank verification number was actually some of the catalysts that allowed us to go from offline to online.
All right, thank you. So now let's talk about like hiring generally and like building distributed teams. So for Paylater has like distributed offices in Lagos, London, South Africa. So what's the thinking behind the setup, and what strategic advantage does this distribution offer your company, like having distributed offices all across the world?
Yeah. So in an ideal world, there is no advantage. It's actually stressful working with people in different countries. I think the reason we did that was we needed to get the best talent, and it was difficult hiring in Nigeria, and it was difficult keeping people in Nigeria. Look, if an engineer is good, and let's say Booking.com comes and says, here's an offer to go to Amsterdam. Look, I've always said that I would actually encourage them to do it, because it's a different experience. I think I worked in America, I worked in South Africa, I went to school in England. Who am I to deny somebody a different experience? I think it's actually very good. So the challenge is, we've lost a few people to, Amsterdam, a few other places. Even in South Africa, actually, when we hired people in South Africa, they were going to Amsterdam as well. And our competitors are global, right? So Nigerians don't care that Paylater is a Nigerian company. If they did, we would win completely against all our competitors, because host of them are from Portugal, America, China. They don't care. They want the cheapest loan, the fastest time, and they want as much money as possible. Now, if I'm competing against people who have done this in several markets, and Nigeria is just like the 10th one, I've got to make sure that I have the best people as well to compete. And let's face it, fintech is new in Nigeria. There are not many people who have experience lending the way we do. So we need to find the best talent, and that's it. But in terms of, I don't think anyone opens an office in a different location lightly. So like, it takes a toll on you as a person. It takes a toll on your team. So it's but I'll say one thing about hiring is we got some advice from Eric Schmidt of Google, and he said, when you're in a period of rapid growth, you're going to make some mistakes. This whole hiring, trying to hire properly, if you're growing 10%, 15% month on month, you need people quickly. You're going to make mistakes. Just hire, do what you need to do, make those mistakes, fix it, move on. But everyone always tells you, you've got to hire right, which you have to. But sometimes when you're in a period of high growth, you haven't got the luxury of really taking the time to have a full-blown recruitment process. So sometimes you just have to do what you have to do.
So one strategic advantage that you've mentioned is like it gives you like better access to talent. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so outside of like better access to talent, is there any other advantage that comes with having distributed teams that doesn't have anything to do with hiring or talent?
Not really. Well, I mean, I think it touches on some of the things we discussed about remote work. Lagos is not easy. There are power issues, there are traffic issues. When you work in London or Cape Town, I mean, there's just hardly any distraction. You can sit there and work flat out, for 12 hours. You don't have to worry about traffic issues as much. So apart from that, really isn't that much advantage.
So you mentioned before that hiring for some roles, like say some machine learning roles or like data analyst roles, can be very challenging. Now, how have you managed to keep building and scaling your team despite these challenges?
So one of the things Ngozi did was Ngozi ran this program in the East where he basically we paid for people to go through this. I think Andrew Ng's data science or machine learning course. And I think we had about 30 people, and every week they had to pass certain modules. And I think at the end, only about 7 people actually completed it. And it's actually not, it's actually a challenging course. And if you look at Andrew Ng, I mean, he's world-renowned on machine learning, and I think he was recruiting people a few months ago. And on Twitter, this is the guy who I think he's the former head of machine learning or AI for Baidu. And he said one of the requirements for anyone who wanted a job with him was take my course and pass. So we have some Nigerians who've actually done it and passed it. And then we hired two people who are working with us remotely in data science. We're also partnering with the Nigerian Data Science Society with Bio of MTN. So we're actually going to open a data science hub in Owerri as well. So that's all, and that's our bid to try and create and foster talent, and hopefully we can work with some of the graduates as well as other companies in Nigeria. So I mean I think that's what you have to do to build a funnel of talent, because data scientists are expensive globally, so even, and I think that's the opportunity for Nigerians is that, once you're a data scientist, you can really write your own check globally. So it's something that I think should be encouraged.
So basically, you did not immediately find your talent, you built it.
No, we were building it, but we tried to find it. So when we made the move to Paylater, and it's quite a funny period. When we started, we basically gave a loan to anyone that told us that if they earn 100 naira and their expenses were 90 naira, so you have 10 naira, we'd give it to you, whether you're lying or not. I mean, we didn't have an algorithm, right? So this was just raw. And it wasn't sustainable. So Ngozi and I went to San Francisco. For 10 days, we're looking for anyone who could help us build an algorithm. And the response we had in America was we try to hire people, and they were like, this is not very exciting. It's not an interesting problem for them. So luckily, we just were like, you can make money. Like, Nigeria is open. They're like, no, we want to do something really, 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 difficult. Very annoying, but we did. So we found a team that actually. Luckily, we're doing something similar in Kenya, in San Francisco. So we actually worked with them. So for I think 4 or 5 months, every Friday we were looking at the analysis. They were building the algorithm for us. But it's expensive. We worked with another team, and it's expensive. I mean, I think I would say that's a challenge of maybe a non-technical founder or not having, let's say, a machine learning expert or a software engineer as a co-founder, because the story of Paylater is littered with experiments of working with the likes of Andela, other Nigerian dev agencies I will not name, foreign teams in Estonia, and so and also luckily then finally getting our own team. So it's been an interesting journey.
So generally, what are your thoughts on remote working? It seems to be something that's catching up steam recently. What are your thoughts on it?
Look, I think remote working is great if people can handle it, because I think it takes discipline, right? So in principle, I'm in favor of it. Why spend 4 hours trying to get to the office when you can wake up in the morning, and start working? So I used to do remote working as well, even in finance. But again, it all depends on whether people abuse it or not. And I think I think in terms of Nigeria, lots of things work in theory, but then they just sort of like die when it comes into practice. You know, I remember we used to, so I've never worked in an environment where I've called anyone sir. You know, my first job, my CEO was, I was 21, he was 65. And Tom would come and get me coffee at my table. You know, I would go into his room and call him Tom, I'll do this. But you see, I never ever once thought we were mates. You know, we couldn't call him sir. And when I came back to Nigeria, I said I don't want to do this sir thing. This is, you know, at one point I was even finding people, they called me sir. But then something happened. People started coming to meetings late. I'm in the meeting room waiting for my team, and all of a sudden my team is not there. You know, because all of a sudden it was, you're the boss, but you know, because we're on first name terms, it's you're soft. So I reverted and said, okay, everyone has to call me sir. This is not Paylater, this is actually another company. But then after 2 days, I said, this is not me. You know, so I called the team and said, I'm going to fire you if you mess up, because I'm not going to start changing myself just because you guys can't handle it. Because I think that, you know, remote working is done because it's more efficient. But if the person who's doing the remote working can't handle it, it's not responsible, then it's a shame, because I think it's actually a good tool. And I think for Nigeria, you know, we need to be more creative about how we can actually be on a sort of a level playing field with other global competitors.
All right, thank you very much for that. So we're going to the last segment of the questions that I have for you. Just a few questions to do. Like I said earlier, for people that are just joining us, we're going to have some 20-25 minutes of just questions. So if you have any questions, please jot them down. And after this session, we're going to pass microphones around and we get a chance to ask you questions. So final segments, just general advice really. Like a CEO of a really fast-moving company in Nigeria, what advice do you have about hiring and retaining exceptional talent? Because companies grow and they start to find out that that's one of their major problems, hiring and maintaining the people they hire.
Yeah, look, I think you have to be very humble as a CEO, really, to be successful. So one of the things Ngozi and I, we know is that we're not the smartest people in the room, and we're very excited that we've just hired a bunch of people that are smarter than us, that they actually know more things about what what they're doing than we do. Because I think a CEO founder's role is really to do the things the team can't do, and it's not trivial. At the end of the day, a founder has to make certain decisions, has to find money, has to fire people. Unfortunately, has to hire people. So do I need to be the smartest person in finance? No, because at the end of the day, when something happens, LASMA is looking for you, or FIRS, you're the person that has to show up. So it's a lot of work. I think also you have to give people flexibility and freedom to do, to basically make mistakes. I think one of the things that we try and encourage in Paylater is risk taking. Take a risk. It's if it fails, let's learn from it. So let's not do the same thing over and over again, because we really learned from it once. But I think, and I think you should try and reward people. And look, the jury is out on things like options. I think options are great. In fact, business school, we learned stock options is how you reward people. But the problem is, in an environment where you haven't seen many people, do really well from stock options, it's very hard to tell somebody, I'm going to pay you 80% of your salary, but here's some options. It's only work if the 20 companies, Paystack, IPO'd and everyone got rich, Paylater IPO'd and everyone who had options made money. But if you don't see a lot of that, then it's very difficult. How do you reward people? And then I think one of the challenges that a lot of startups have is, we don't make money overnight. it's really hard. So you have a team that needs to get paid, and after after year on year, everyone wants salary increases, but you're not making money. So I think one of the things I like to do, encourage CEOs is share as much information with your team as possible. Sometimes we used to run. So my former life, we ran the 20 Mr. Bigs on all mobile petrol stations. And one of the things I did was I had this thing called the quarterly business review, where I'd got all the 20 managers every quarter, and I would show them, this is the financial statements, this is your store, and this is the company. So they could see, when they were asking for increases, etc., they could see how's your store performed and how's the company performed. And it was all open. So if I said no, it was because, well, we're not making money, or you're not making money. And what was interesting was, it wasn't Chijioke versus a manager, it was managers versus managers. Because managers be like, well, hang on, you have a great location, how come you haven't been able to do much? How come you have so much B&D? So I think that's what you have to do. You have to sort of make information available. And Paystack does that, where you guys share periodically, what your stats and what you've done. And we do as well, sharing how many loans, how much loans we've given out, how much in terms of volume and value. And the reason why we do that is, I don't mind sharing because I want to work to make those numbers obsolete. So yeah, I did 400,000. I'm saying that to you because hopefully that's going to be old news. I'm going to do 1 million loans by this time in a few months' time. So I think it's really important to share.
Okay. All right, thank you. So Paylater is like working in a very competitive landscape, yet you continue to remain dominant. So are there any lessons there that you can share about how to stay dominant in a really competitive space for all the business owners here?
So I think you need to focus on. So my father told me that when you are successful, people think it's just overnight, and they don't see the hard work that's gone on before. So some of our competitors have woken up and said, "Wow, Paylater, let's quickly get a dev team, let's create an app, and let's start lending." And we'll start giving, let's say, 1,000 naira to people. As I said, we spent 4 years giving money to people. We've been walking the streets, doing payroll lending money to civil servants, lending money to, so it's not, Paylater is the result of, a lot of lending that has gone on in the 4 or 5 years prior to that. But I think, it's not really focusing on your competitor, but focusing on your customer. I think that's how you win, how you stay competitive, because at the end of the day, if our customers are happy, then we're going to do well. But if I'm worried about what my competitors are doing and the moves they're taking, or some of my staff they're poaching, then I'm going to be focusing on them instead of the people that actually pay us. So I think that's, it's not easy. Everyone says it focus on the customer, it's easy. It's not. You wake up in the morning and find out somebody's poaching your staff. Instinctively, you're going to react. Or somebody has come up with a product that undercuts yours. You will be inhuman not to react to it. So it's natural. But at the end of the day, you have to just sort of, react, take a step back, and then just focus on the user, and then you'll be fine.
All right. So if any at all, what opportunities are there for all the businesses to here, or also it's partner with Paylater? Are you working on something that makes it open for all the businesses to partner with you?
Yeah, look, so that's the goal. The goal is to partner with people to provide different services to our customers. We believe we have a big customer base, so we want to connect to people so that we can actually offer those services to our customers. Look, we also want to we're interested in sort of acquiring smaller companies, because I think that there's more of that needs to happen in Nigeria. This whole idea of everyone wants to be a CEO and do their own startup. I used to be very reluctant, as a founder telling another founder that, look, I don't think your company is going to make it, and here's why. Because I used to feel, who am I to say this? Because I'm also a founder. But I'm lucky in the sense that some of our companies have gone bankrupt. Some, we failed at companies. So companies fail. You just have to move on. And if you have I see every day, I see interesting features that could work or could enhance Paylater, but someone wants to make it a product. So you have one thing that you want to build a whole company around, but a user only needs a customer only needs it, maybe once every 3 months. Is that really worth it? Or is it worth maybe saying, partnering with likes of Paylater or Packet that has lots of customers, and that becomes an additional feature, and you join them. I mean, so I think that's how we want to grow by working with companies, plugging their services into our ecosystem. And if there's any interesting startups that we see that don't have much traction, maybe plugging them into our team and enhancing our speed to market.
All right, thank you very much for your time. I think now we've come to the end of this session. So now